Welcome to One Brothas Mind, and I am KD Smooth. Today we will question and challenge popular information and views from a B1 perspective, while we expose the real facts you need. We do this to strengthen your logical, critical, and discerning thinking skills. Because in today's world, hard choices are mandatory and they come with consequences. So you need all the information. And at One Brothas Mind, we do this from a B1 Yeshua the Christ followers perspective. Now, if you're not ready, you better get ready with Katie Smooth at One Brothas Mind.
The time for scared, lip trembling, word changing, self-denying, compromising, knee shaking black people is over. If you have something to say, speak up with authority and conviction. If not, sit down and shut up. We have to have the power to tell the truth, to say whatever is necessary, to do what needs to be done, whatever it is, no matter who it may hurt.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's Katie Smooth coming back at you with a new report. I pray you all are doing well. Shalom, family. In today's report, family, we're going to briefly discuss the issue here on your screen. You guys seen a thumbnail. There is a thing happening, or that's being attempted at least, in the city of Jackson, Mississippi, in the state of Mississippi. And we're going to chop it up about this thing, this new proposed bill for a separate court system for Jackson, Mississippi. And it's actually deeper and more involved than that. We're going to get into that information as well. But before we do, family, please remember to hit the like button, smash the like button, smash the likes, share this report on all your social media with all your peoples. And be sure to be subscribed to One Brothas Mind, where we try to bring you the information and facts you need. Okay, family. We're going to dive into this proposed separate courts bill out of the state, or let's say city of Jackson, Mississippi. Family. Okay, before I go in, I want to share with you a clip that will get you up to date if you are totally unfamiliar with what's going on with this. And then after the clip, we're going to come back and chop it up, and I'm going to provide some more detailed information. And of course, as always, if we get invaded by any of those colonizer invaders, we will banish them immediately during our clips, and we will finish our clips right after their banishment. Okay, we're going to go ahead and jump in here, get you guys up to speed as to what's happening. We'll get you up to speed as to what's happening. Okay, and we are going to do that now. Here we go.
Watching Jackson, Mississippi back in the spotlight. The state legislature at odds over a bill creating a separate court system in the capital city where court officials would be appointed by state officials instead of elected, and nearly a fourth of Jackson would be under state control. It is the most recent example in a long history of clashes between the city of Jackson and the state of Mississippi. What will the bill look like by the time it reaches the governor's desk? Zingle Asamoah has the story.
A new Mississippi bill is fueling controversy and protest in the state's capital. The bill is aimed at crime, the state facing a higher homicide rate than any state in the country, according to 2020 CDC data, with Jackson's homicide rate increasing 66% from 2017 to 2020, according to policy group Empower Mississippi. On Thursday, controversial elements of the bill were scrapped in the state Senate, but tensions remain. State Democrats initially calling HB 1020 racist and unconstitutional. The original State House bill expands an 8.6 square mile district in Jackson known as the Capitol Complex Improvement District, or CCID, growing to over 26 square miles within the city. It also created a new court system in the district where officials would be permanently appointed by state officials and not elected by Jackson residents. And the bill moved jurisdiction from the city of Jackson's police department to the state's Capitol Police.
It's taking power away from Jackson residents, but it's really kind of creating a city within a city.
State Representative Ronnie Crudup Jr. adding the proposal may have had to do with race.
Jackson's 85% black, but a lot of our more affluent and white residents were included in this expansion of the CCID.
The House bill's author, Representative John Thomas Trey Lamar, denies allegations redistricting was due to race.
All I'm interested in is helping make the capital city of the state of Mississippi safer. That's it.
The House bill now amended in the Senate by State Senator Bryce Wiggins.
Nobody, white, black, green, or blue, will tell you there's not a crime problem in Jackson. We've got to get a hand. They and us have got to get a handle on it.
His updated bill reverses the district expansion, eliminates the proposed new court system, and requires state and city police to reach an understanding together or go back to the drawing board.
Capitol Police have always had jurisdiction over the state capitol. What the Senate bill does is extend jurisdiction of the Capitol Police Department to all of the city of Jackson, and to work with via a memorandum with the Jackson Police Department to figure out the nuances and how that works.
If the bill passes, Wiggins says the state House and Senate must come to an agreement before it reaches the governor's desk. Zinclair Samoa, NBC News.
Okay, family. There you have it. I want to go a bit more in detail here on this issue. I'm going to be sharing with you some tidbits or some pieces out of an article that's in the USA Today. That's the title of the article. In Jackson, Mississippi, how can a separate criminal justice system be equal? Okay. Real quick, family. They mentioned quite a bit in that clip, but in what the mainstream media typically does, they don't fully explain, as well as they use a lot of propaganda, covert wording, a lot of dog whistling. Just basically, they don't report the truth or the full truth. Okay? So, with the additional details here out of this article written in USA Today, the Mississippi House of Representatives recently passed a bill that would create a separate court system, literally, a separate court system, and expand the police force for the city of Jackson, Mississippi. Jackson, the state's capital city, has an 83% black majority. Okay, pause right there. Let that sink in your spirit, family. Jackson, Mississippi has an 83% black majority. So some of you already are going, okay, well, why is this a problem? What's going on? If they are the majority, shouldn't the residents of Jackson, Mississippi basically elect all the elected officials and control, by way of election, the city of Jackson, the capital? Correct question. But no. Primarily because they've been, and they mentioned this in the clip, they've been doing something for over 50 years called redistricting. Okay? And a real quick explanation of redistricting is taking the city of Jackson, Mississippi, right? They'll draw new district lines. Well, let me back up. First, you have the line literal around the city of Jackson, Mississippi. Okay? You have that official line. And within that line, it's 83% so-called black majority. So what the politicians in Mississippi will do, they will do what's called redistricting, and they'll draw brand new lines over and superseding the city of Jackson, Mississippi's official land lines or boundary lines. So with the new lines, what they'll do, they'll dip in and say, draw off a small section on the north side and include that with a predominantly white area or city, say a northern or north of Jackson, Mississippi, so that for that new redistrict line, the black voters within that line, their vote no longer carries the weight that it did and that it does within the normal boundary lines for Jackson, Mississippi itself. So basically they carved Jackson, Mississippi up almost like a pizza into smaller bits. And each smaller bit is now, those votes are now included in larger, predominantly white districts. So the city of Jackson, Mississippi's predominantly black majority is no longer a majority. Do you see that? They carve it up and chop it up into smaller sections and say, oh, that you're a part from this street to this street over here. You're a part of this new district over here. And from this street here to this street over here, y'all part of that district over there. They just divide it up or dilute the votes for the black citizens in Jackson, Mississippi, when there should only be one boundary. The boundary, the official land boundary of the city of Jackson, Mississippi. And if that's the only boundary that is counted, as well as counted for elections, then the citizens of Jackson, Mississippi, which is predominantly black, would control all of the elected officials in and for Jackson, Mississippi, the city, the capital. Do you see that? But because of this redistricting trick, they've been getting away with this for years. And be clear, family, U.S. politicians have been doing redistricting all across the United States for this exact same reason and purpose. Because it primarily dilutes the so-called black vote in areas of the country, in cities of the country where we have either a majority or a very, like we may only be 45% of the vote in the city, but the vote, that percentage, plus the other residents, non-black residents that also vote Democrat, collectively is a large enough percentage to control the elections. But again, to dilute that, politicians have been, and it's mostly Republicans, but politicians have been carving up, slicing and dicing cities to dilute the so-called black vote all across the United States. Okay, they've been doing that for years, getting away with it. And actually, just a little historical tip. If you go back in history, right after so-called slavery ended, which it never ended, y'all. I'll speak on that in a moment. When the so-called slaves were freed in many of the southern states in the United States, all of a sudden, overnight, essentially, a lot of states and a lot of cities were predominantly so-called black. And if all the black, now so-called free slaves had the right to vote, they controlled the elections in every one of these cities and states. Do you see that? So the devils had to come up with some new I'm white and I say so rules and make some new I'm white and I say so laws to combat that new reality. Okay? So they could remain in control of those, or remain politically in control of those cities and states. Do you see that? That's where you get into the origin of the Electoral College and a lot of stuff, and some of the motivation and reasons for removing the vote. If you have someone that gets jailed, convicted of a crime, of course, or a felony, they no longer have the right to vote. All of these things and others are the reasons for, or reasons to combat the majority votes in a lot of these southern states and cities of so-called black people. They came up with a bunch of different jackleg rules and laws to dilute the vote or remove people's votes. That's why they were, if you remember historically, they was showing up at the polls, they had the guns, and they was literally erasing black people for trying to come when they came to try to vote. Or the new little voting laws, you got to be able to pass this test or literacy test. Just go down the line. That's what all of this was about, predominantly. Okay? So it ain't never changed. Okay? It ain't never changed. The original voting laws and laws that are on the books, once slavery so-called ended, essentially overnight put so-called black people politically in charge of many southern states and cities. Okay? And like I said, the devils wasn't gonna allow that. The slave masters, we can't allow that. We gotta do something. We can't let them there just, if they all vote, then they win. They can just vote us out. Exactly. So we got to do something. What we gonna do, y'all? Well, let's make up a new law that says they gotta be able to pass a literacy test to vote. Again, on and on. Okay. So this redistricting is just an additional one of those I'm white and I say so laws that they created to dilute the so-called black vote. And in this example, we're talking about Jackson, Mississippi. Okay. So the article goes on further to say among the highest of any major city in America is the 83% so-called black majority in Jackson, Mississippi. The Mississippi House has a white supermajority. The bill's proposed is called the Capital Complex Improvement District. That bill would include all of the city's majority white neighborhoods. Okay, the majority white neighborhoods of Jackson. That's why you saw that map of Jackson, Mississippi in the clip, and then on the northern east side of that map, you saw that little section. Those are the predominantly white neighborhoods that are a part of Jackson, Mississippi. The whole city. You see that? Okay. It goes on in this article to say Republican Representative Terry Lamar says his House Bill 1020 would address high crime rates. That's a lie. In Jackson and the backlog of court cases in Hinds County. This bill is designed to help make our capital city of Mississippi a safer city. They typically use that lie. We're fighting crime. It's a cap, family. It's a cap. Okay? The article goes on to say the special district's officials would be, okay, let me read that one more time for you. The special district's officials, or you could replace officials with authority, would be appointed, not elected. The officials would be appointed by statewide elected officials. So all of the white people statewide, the predominant white vote for the whole state of Mississippi, of Jackson, Mississippi, of Mississippi, the whole predominantly white vote, those elected officials would then appoint officials for Jackson, Mississippi. So Jackson, Mississippi officials no longer be elected by the people of Jackson, Mississippi. Essentially, completely eliminating the right to vote and the power of the vote for the citizens of Jackson, Mississippi. Do you see that, family? Again, I'm gonna read that part again. The special district's officials would be appointed by statewide elected white officials. I added the white part. All of whom are white. Well, it did it anyway. Not only are all of the state's current elected officials white, due to racially polarized voting or redistricting, they may be white for the foreseeable future. Mississippi has not elected an African American to the statewide office since Reconstruction. Remember, I just gave you a little historical lesson a second ago? Despite the fact that the population is nearly 40% black. And that's for the state of Mississippi, not just Jackson. Okay? The proposed district would put government decision-making on issues involving its majority white neighborhoods into the hands of white Mississippi state officials. Jackson's non-white individuals arrested there would also be more than likely have white judges preside over their fate. So now you're not only talking about the elected officials, now you're talking about the judges, because the elected officials are the ones who appoint the judges. House Bill 1020 would give the state's Chief Justice the power to appoint judges for this special district, and the Attorney General the power to appoint prosecutors. Do you see what's happening here? They want to use the white state officials to appoint the judges, the prosecutors, all the authorities in Jackson, Mississippi, in the city of Jackson, Mississippi. The story of Mississippi is one of constant management of white racial dominance, dating to the brutal conditions on Mississippi's plantations before the Civil War. Mississippi had a black majority from the time of the Civil War through the Great Migration of the 1930s. Again, I just gave you that history tip. Mississippi, the whole state was majority black prior to the Great Migration. And currently, Jackson, Mississippi, there may be a couple other cities, but Jackson, Mississippi is still predominantly black, 83%. But they want to, by doing this special bill, this special satanic trickeration, they want to completely render the citizens, the so-called black citizens of Jackson, Mississippi, voteless. Their vote doesn't count. Do you see that? Okay. The article goes on to read, white residents committed to white supremacy have historically used the law and violence to maintain power in spite of their lower numbers. I added the word lower. Okay. Violence fell out of favor, however, after the civil rights movement in the 1960s. Manipulation of the law became more important, or manipulation of the laws, redistricting, and others. Okay? The creation of special districts has flown, or let me reread that. The creation of special districts, or I'm white not say so districts, have flown under the radar as a tool to control resources, but could result in racial inequality. Special districts, or I'm white not say so districts, are now the most common form of government in the United States. Since 2017, state and local governments have created almost 800 special districts, or I'm white not say so districts, bringing the total to an all-time high of nearly 40,000. And their popularity continues to grow. Like I said, this is happening nationwide, been happening for a long time. Just this story is focusing on Jackson, Mississippi. The article goes on with, the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that the principle of one person, one vote does not, I repeat, does not apply to certain special, or I'm white not say so, proposed districts. So you see, you even have the Supreme Court in on this satanic I'm white not say so, or white supremacist program that's been going on in the United States for decades. Okay? All right. Again, the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that the principle of the one person, one vote does not apply to certain special purpose districts, or I'm white not say so districts, such as water and irrigation districts. Courts have also deferred to states, meaning they've refused to rule, federal courts, and they've allowed states to do whatever they wanted to do. Courts have also deferred to states on decisions to shift from a system of election to one of appointment for local government bodies. But this proposed Capitol Complex Improvement District is not just making sure the water is running, an issue in Jackson where the state legislator provided very little aid until there was a crisis that received national attention. This special district, or I'm white not say so district, would have broad law enforcement powers also, so you got Supreme Court, you got the judges, you got the prosecutor, you got the infrastructure, all being controlled by appointed I'm white and I say so officials. Okay, let's move on. This special district, or I'm white and I say so district, would have broad law enforcement powers and its own separate courts. So, family, again, the clip did not cover all of those aspects, and there's some other details or additional details you may find of what this so-called special bill will have the power to do. At this point, family, you should clearly see and understand what's happening here, why it's happening, what's going on. Yeah. So, as you see on your screen, this is nothing but using the current I'm white and I say so laws to redistrict. Not only that, to now go beyond redistricting in Mississippi to using the elected officials for the state to appoint the authorities and officials for the city of Jackson, Mississippi. In other words, the residents of Jackson, Mississippi have no vote. They have no say in nothing. But I know y'all sitting there going, wait, this is America. What the hell? Wait a minute. Yeah, they've been doing this for a long time. This is not new with the redistricting and the special I'm white and I say so districts. This is not new. Not new. But they've been continuing to get away with this because those of us in the so-called black community have not provided the needed resistance to this, the needed level of resistance to these things. We're going to get into that here in a moment. Okay? So, just to be clear, here's on your screen just a few of the ways that this type of special districts, I'm white and I say so laws, or Jim Crow laws, affect the so-called black community. They sustain or perpetuate systematic inequality. They assert white supremacy within our communities. They treat so-called black people as second-class citizens. They also prevent so-called black people from voting, or just completely eliminate so-called black communities' vote. They prevent us from being able to have a regular life here as an American citizen within what's supposed to be a representative government by election. They purposely target us, or put them in a position to be able to purposely target us with the courts, law enforcement, prosecutors, so on and so forth. They make it even easier for them to fine us and incarcerate us, arrest and incarcerate us. Do y'all see that? Without representation of elected officials improving the laws and making the laws that are representing us, so-called black community, we have no control over nothing, no say over nothing. We're, like I said, still slaves. Slavery never ended, y'all. We're going to touch on that. So one of the things that goes along with this, family, that I need y'all to understand is, I mean, most of us, you go around most neighborhoods, communities, even majority so-called black cities in the United States, most of those communities and cities or even near majority so-called black cities, most of them they're job deserts. No, y'all have heard the term food deserts. There's no, real infrastructure there as far as essential, infrastructure. And then in addition to that, there's job deserts. There's no real economy. There's no family sustaining wage paying jobs in most so-called black communities and cities. The states and city governments and federal governments, they're all been doing this to our communities on purpose. They're not promoting or directing new industries, new corporations or businesses that bring family sustaining wage paying jobs into our communities. If we get anything, we'll get a Walmart or something like that that's barely paying above minimum wage. Those are the jobs if any, that they send to our communities. But if you're paying attention, when they make the big announcements about new distribution centers or manufacturing corporations coming to the state or coming to the cities, those magically, all of them magically always settle in to a predominantly white part of the state or city. So that the black communities are job deserts. They're being economically starved. The wealth is declining. The incomes are declining. Most of the black people in the black community are living, because of those low income rates, are living in sheer poverty. Do you see that, family? This is all being done on purpose. And you even have some around the country, some elected so-called black officials. But have you noticed, there's a bunch of them, but you don't really see none of them out here on the mainstream media talking about, we just got a deal struck for this corporation to build a new operations center or manufacturing center or whatever you want to call it. Basically bring high wage paying jobs to areas that are predominantly black, in black communities. Do y'all see that? You don't see that happen for the most part. They are purposely, economically starving our communities. Purposely, therefore, keeping most black people in sheer poverty. Most of y'all know if you live in most black communities around the U.S., you literally have to drive outside of your community to even have access to higher paying jobs. So you can be one of the small percentage of so-called black people who actually have closer to a family sustaining income. That's pretty much your only chance. You got to drive from the black community and go drive into the downtown area or the uptown area or into some suburban area to get to and have access to higher wage paying jobs. And that's just to even apply for those. And if you're one of the lucky few that gets those, then okay, you may not be specifically living in poverty, but everybody else that didn't get one of those jobs from the Black community, they're still living under poverty wages or income. Do you see that? And what happens when you economically starve any group of people, any human beings? Human beings are going to, or at least most human beings, this does not matter in regards to race or nationality. It's poverty. Human beings are going to look and seek out ways to survive, to eat. You got people locked into sheer poverty, and they don't have enough to eat. They don't have enough to pay their rent and utilities, just to keep a roof and the lights on or what have you. Human beings are going to seek out ways to come up with more income, legitimately or not. Okay? So, understanding that and understanding the difference between the wages in predominantly Black communities and cities in this case, and having access to living wage jobs and incomes makes all the difference. Okay? And without living wage income and jobs available, and most people in any community living in poverty because of it, because of their being economically starved, human beings are going to move into survival mode. That's where you get this increase in attention, so-called, from the majority of, in this example and many others, the majority of the white politicians and white community. Well, we got to reduce crime. Do you see that? So you starving people economically. And then when or as they try to find and seek out ways to come up with additional money to survive, oh, now we got to get tougher on crime. That's the solution, because we got to stop all this crime. This we can't allow this, right? You see what they're doing? Economically starving Black communities and cities, and then getting so-called tougher on crime. It's like, you know your underarms stink, but your solution is to just keep putting on deodorant over top your stanky underarm. In other words, you're purposely not solving the real problem. You just trying to put deodorant on to cover up your stink. And most of y'all know that don't work. That doesn't solve that doesn't get rid of your stink. Mississippi and many other so-called Black communities and cities that these so-called Black communities are in that are being economically starved are stinking. They've been stinking. But instead of infusing development, investment, especially business and corporation investment that are bringing higher paying jobs into so-called Black communities, instead of doing that, which is essentially getting the soap and water and washing your stinking underarms, instead of doing that and eliminating the problem completely, Their answer is, let's just get tougher on crime and spray this deodorant on there, and that's all. That's what we need to do. Do you see that? Because there's something wrong with these criminals, these human beings that are trying to survive. There's something wrong with them. We don't like them. We really want to be separate from them. When in fact, the criminals are the officials who are economically starving certain special areas. And in this case, in Mississippi, they're trying to remove the so-called black citizens of Jackson, Mississippi. They're trying to remove their vote or starve them from their right in the United States of America to vote, to have political representation. Do y'all see that? Okay, let's move forward. Oh yeah, then you got these fools, these devils. Y'all, we forgot that. No. Remember? These fools and a bunch of their friends, they stole literally $5 million, allegedly, that the federal government sent to the state of Mississippi for assisting the impoverished citizens there in Mississippi, or in many cases there in Jackson, Mississippi. So do y'all see how this, man, come on, man. And you got these satanic devils literally stealing that money that's supposed to be going to the impoverished majority black citizens in the state of Mississippi, in the state and in the various cities. They're building volleyball courts and gyms for their family. And as I said in my previous report on these devils, this ain't the first time they done this. They've been doing this for decades. They just got caught. But wait a minute. Have they gotten caught? Has any of these fools been arrested, charged, and convicted of anything? Nope. They still running around, living their lives in peace after stealing at least $5 million, allegedly. They ain't been arrested. You've already had some of their other little cohorts. They've already took pleas and pleaded guilty, several of them. But these two ain't been arrested. Yeah. Okay, y'all see what's going on here. We're going to move on. As I said, family, with all these white and I say so laws, slavery never ended. One of the whole factors of slavery is to keep the labor force in poverty. Not only because you don't like them or they don't like the slaves, but it keeps them in control, as well as it's profitable to the slave masters to keep the slaves in poverty. Because while the slaves are in poverty, most of the profits or all the profits are going to the slave masters. Do you see that? And they're getting richer and richer and richer. So, to my so-called black brothers and sisters out here in Jackson, Mississippi, and all over the U.S., be clear. Remaining neutral on these issues and not maintaining self-defense with these types of issues will result in us losing more and more of our freedoms and our lives. But y'all see that all over these social media streets. Y'all seeing all these stories. It's for a lot of y'all saying it's gotten worse than it was 20 years ago. No, it ain't gotten worse. It was still there. It's just you just starting to see it more because of social media. To my young so-called black listeners, this is what your parents and your grandparents have been telling you about. And now y'all starting to see this stuff. Right? The question is, what are we, or better yet, what are you going to do about it? Okay? So I want to offer a few suggestions here as solutions to this bill and these redistricting and special I'm white now say so districts all across the United States. I want to offer a few suggestions, not in any special order, but one suggestion is we have to use our vote as a specific body with purpose. And in our areas, we have to vote in all so-called black officials that represent us. Okay? And we have to fight this redistricting crap, this white I say so district lines. We have to fight this stuff in many different ways. Okay? Not just voting with purpose, because that'll help fix some of them, but not all of them. Okay? We have to, on many of my previous reports, we have to establish our own schools independently from their schools. We have to buy black, circulate our black dollar within black-owned businesses only in our communities. Use our dollar, our economics, to not only enrich our community, but while we're doing that, at the same time, we are affecting, let's say that, their community, because they're no longer getting our dollars. And in any type of businesses that we don't have available in our communities, like just one quick example, in a lot of our communities, we don't have our own black-owned grocery stores, things of that nature. We have to make those happen. Okay? We have to get with black-owned farms and farmers, source our grocery needs, and then open up our own grocery stores that are supplied by and sourced by black-owned farms and farmers, and then only shop for our groceries there. Do you see that, family? That's how we build our own grocery stores and supplies, and use that same model for pick a business, whatever it is. That's the model. That's what we have to do, because in many of our so-called black communities, we literally don't have every needed business type, but because it's not there, that means there's room for us to establish those. So if somebody said, okay, I'm going to do a donut shop, I'm going to do a pizza place, I'm going to do a car repair place, I'm going to do whatever it is, follow that same template. Once they open, our entire community floods them with business. Only the black-owned businesses. So they're going to be financially successful as a business. Do you see that, family? Okay. Again, creating networks with our own Black-owned farms and farmers to source our needed resources and food and vegetables and meats. Okay? In addition, as you see on your screen, why ain't we got our own banks? Or at the very least, why do their banks have our money? Yeah, are you sure your money is safe in their banks? Or for many of us, and more and more people are experiencing this every day, somebody, one of them, are just pushing a button, whether it's one of the banking officials or a scammer, doesn't matter, and poof, your money's gone. Or your access to it has been completely removed for a period of time. So is your money safe in their banks? Or is it safer in some fashion or another with you? Because remember, you're not getting no interest paid, no dividend off of your money in their banks anyway, right? Get your money, family. Okay. Some additional things. In addition to getting your money, make sure you educate yourself with how to move once you get your money. Once you have your money. However you decide to have your money instead of their banks having it, make sure you're fully aware of this white not say so law, asset forfeiture. This satanic law that they're doing. You can't just ride around with all your money in your luggage or in your car. Because they made up this white not say so law and they're just going to steal your money. So, before you get your money, educate yourself on how to move around safely with your money. Okay? Got videos on there, previous videos. Go into One Brothas Mind. Go into the videos about banking and finance. I go into more details about that issue. Again, as I said, buy black only. Support our own communities. Establish our own businesses that we need in our communities that we don't currently have, and support them. Okay? I heard someone say recently, and I literally have to watch myself on this as well, is, McDonald's can mess your order up pretty much every time you go there. They can jack your order up and you keep going to McDonald's. But if you go to a black-owned business or restaurant and they make one mistake, you'll never want to go back to them and give them another chance. Like I said, I have to check myself on that. I get it. I got to go back. We have to support our businesses. Why the discrepancy? Y'all see that? Okay. Moving forward. In addition to, like I mentioned, things that we're going to need to do to combat this stuff, we have to secure, like I mentioned, when our farming, secure all of our own resources, black owned. There's black farmers that's got all of these different things in and around Jackson, Mississippi. So there's no reason for there not to be a grocery store here or there that black owned that opens up and that they are stocked and supplied by products from the black farmers in and around Jackson, Mississippi. There's no reason for that not to happen. Do y'all see that? And if so, then you ain't got to go depend on them, especially when they are constantly making up new I'm white and I say so laws. Do you see that? Okay. Establish our own resources. Also, another big part is, yeah, they're going to be protesting. Protest. Get out there and protest heavy. But I offer this note with protesting. One, do it legally. Don't necessarily get out there and start blocking roads and stuff like that, because y'all already know what they coming to do. They're going to bust you upside the head and arrest you because they made a bunch of our white and I say so protest laws that says you can't do that. They're going to throw you in jail. So, yes, protest at all the government buildings and whatnot, and pay attention to the people around you in the protest. You got people around you in the protest group talking about, oh, let's go do this, let's go do that, let's you see them attack a building or whatever the case. That's an op, that's an agent. Don't do any of the stuff that they're doing. Get away from them. Identify them, point them out. And if possible, if you can't get away from them, get them out from within the protest group. Okay? Protest legally. But en masse. Why? Because the main reason for protesting is to get the media attention that's needed to draw attention to the entire issue and issues. Do y'all see that? And as long as we're protesting legally, ain't nothing they can do about it. They can't stop us. It's the same tactic that Dr. King used with the marches. It's to get the media attention and the attention of the federal government. Do y'all see that? Okay. And at this point, family, we're at the section of the video where you need to really put on your thinking and discernment cap. Because I just want to briefly highlight, there was this great movie that within the movie, there's a lot of the black community decided to defend itself from the white supremacy that was going on in this area at that time. Should we not also be doing that and providing our own security? I'm just asking questions. Yeah, because when we stop giving them our money, many of them are going to get mad. They're going to be angry. They're going to do something to us. Right? But like every other American citizen, we have the right to defend ourselves. And in most of the southern states, what they calling it today, the stand your ground, we'll stand our ground. Right? I'm just asking questions. Let's move on. In addition, family, here at One Brothas Mind, first off, smash that like button, smash the like button, share this report on all your social media with all your peoples, and be sure to be subscribed to One Brothas Mind, where we try to bring you the information and facts you need. To my family, and yes, I have family, relatives in Jackson, Mississippi. That's where my literal father was born and is from. My grandfather, I got family there, y'all. to my family in Jackson, Mississippi. We need to also, while we're doing all these other things, we need to collectively be putting together a plan where basically their plan is to eliminate our right to vote, or our votes just completely our political power. So we need to establish our own political power. Can you say establish our own government in Jackson, Mississippi? How about that? Oh yeah, it can be done. And once we establish in our own government and our own government officials and document their authority within Jackson, Mississippi, one of the additional things we need to do is definitely secure all of the needed critical infrastructure within Jackson, because if we're going to have our own government, we need also our own Jackson, Mississippi critical infrastructure. You know, we have supplies for gas and oil, for the water systems within Jackson, banks, emergency services, telecommunications, on and on. All of the critical things that a city needs to operate. Once we make sure to line the borders around Jackson, Mississippi, make sure those critical infrastructure pieces are within those borders, or we have direct access to them. Again, why are we not establishing our own political representation or our own government in response to them completely eliminating or attempting to completely eliminate our political power? Now, be clear, family. Once we start to go down this road, you better be fully prepared to secure it. The entire border and entryways into Jackson, Mississippi. Right? Okay. So once you secure all these things and others and establish our own government there in Jackson, Mississippi, then if there's not proper response by the federal government to stop these white and I say so special districts and special laws and appointments and all of this satanic hell that they've been doing to us, the economic starvation, if the federal government does not respond, then one of the only remaining solutions is for the city of Jackson, after doing all the previous things, to notify the state of Mississippi and the federal government and all who need to be notified in writing that the city of Jackson is succeeding from the state of Mississippi and becoming its own governmental entity, right? With that said, family, I want to leave you with a couple of words from the immortal, just a few words from the immortal Malcolm X. And again, if we get any of these colonizer invaders, I will banish them, and we will finish our words from our brother Malcolm.
22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. They see that the whites are so evenly divided that every time they vote, the race is so close they have to go back and count the votes all over again. And which means that any block, any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You can keep Johnson in Washington, D.C., or you can send him back to his Texas cotton patch. You're the one who sent Kennedy to Washington. You're the one who put the present Democratic administration in Washington, D.C. The whites were evenly divided. It was the fact that you threw 80% of your votes behind the Democrats that put the Democrats in the White House. When you see this, you can see that the Negro vote is the key factor. And despite the fact that you are in a position to be the determining factor, what do you get out of it? The Democrats have been in Washington, D.C. only because of the Negro vote. They've been down there 4 years. And all other legislation they wanted to bring up, they brought it up and gotten it out of the way, and now they bring up you. And now they bring up you. You put them first and they put you last. Because you're a chump. A political chump. In Washington, D.C., in the House of Representatives, there are 257 who are Democrats. Only 177 are Republican. In the Senate, there are 67 Democrats. Only 33 are Republicans. The party that you bash controls 2/3 of the House of Representatives and the Senate, and still they can't keep their promise to you because you're a chump. Anytime you throw your weight behind a political party that controls 2/3 of the government, and that party can't keep the promise that it made to you during election time, and you're dumb enough to walk around continuing to identify yourself with that party, you're not only a chump, but you're a traitor to your race. And what kind of alibi do they come up with? They try and pass the buck to the Dixiecrats. Now, back during the days when you were blind, deaf, and dumb, ignorant, politically immature, naturally you went along with that. But today, as your eyes come open and you develop political maturity, you're able to see and think for yourself. And you can see that a Dixiecrat is nothing but a Democrat in disguise. You look at the structure of the government that controls this country. It's controlled by 16 senatorial committees and 20 congressional committees. Of the 16 senatorial committees that run the government, 10 of them are in the hands of Southern segregationists. Of the 20 congressional committees that run the government, 12 of them are in the hands of Southern segregationists.
They attack you all upside your mouth and then take you to court and charge you with assault. What kind of democracy is that? What kind of freedom is that? What kind of social or political system is it when a black man has no voice in court, has nothing on his side other than what the white man chooses to give him? My brothers and sisters, we have to put a stop to this, and it will never be stopped until we stop it ourselves. They attack the victim, and then the criminal who attacked the victim accuses the victim of attacking him. Yes, sir. This is American justice. Yes, sir. That's right. This is American democracy. Yes, and those of you who are familiar with it know that in America, democracy is hypocrisy. Right. Now, if I'm wrong, put me in jail. But if you can't prove that a democracy is not hypocrisy, then don't put your hands on me.
We want an immediate end to the police brutality and mob attacks against the so-called Negroes throughout the United States. We believe that the federal government should intercede to see that black men and women tried in white courts receive justice in accordance with the law of the land, or allow us to build a new nation for ourselves, dedicated to justice, freedom, and liberty. We do not believe that after 400 years of free labor, sweat, and blood, which has helped America become rich and powerful, that so many thousands of black people should have to exist on relief, charity, or live in poorhouses. We want the government of the United States to exempt our people from all taxation, as long as we are deprived of equal justice under the laws of the land. And this is a fact. Why should you be taxed when you don't get anything in return? How can you be charged the same tax as the white man when you don't enjoy the same rights as the white man, or the same citizenship as the white man, or the same protection by the law as the white man? What do you look like riding in the coach on the train, second class, and paying full Pullman fare? Why, the conductor is out of his mind to make you pay as much as in the coach as they're paying in the parlor car. So if you don't pay first class passage for a second class seat, you have no business in a government as a second class citizen paying first class taxes. The government of the United States should exempt our people from all taxation as long as we are deprived of equal justice under the laws of the land.
Cut the check. And this concludes this broadcast for One Brothas Mind. We thank you for joining us. And as a part of the new black media, B1 choices are mandatory. And being on code is required. But never fear, Yeshua the Christ is with you always. Shalom.